Hey everybody, how you doing today? I thought I would take a look at the workshop, this time looking at specific creations of a certain type, and that would be HV heavy tanks. Uh, there's a lot of them, but I'm going to put out a word of warning right now. By how I did this, how I searched the workshop for HVs, and I was looking in the most popular list or most subscribed list. A lot of these are very dated. Some aren't, and some are. And some are made for Reforged Eden, and some are made for vanilla. But I would say probably the bulk of these were made before vanilla added CPU to the game. So the very first entry here is the Centurion MCU by HP Strangelove, and this is one of the prettiest tanks I've seen on the workshop. It is a gorgeous looking creation, really cool aesthetics. The detail is phenomenal. The shaping is excellent. Even the workshop post has really good screenshots and it's very well done. So everything about this is very well done. Now, when I first looked at this, spec-wise, it had 320 RCS in it, and that is not uncommon for an older creation that was built before CPU was entered into the game. I've got some creations very similar to that, and it was needed for these things to work and maneuver and things like that. At this point in time, though, because of CPU, it kind of kills these things. Now, I tried right now to restore this to get it to work in vanilla gameplay, and I added tier 4 CPU cores in it, and I also removed 320 RCS units on here, but it's still not enough. Taking a look at the CPU, we're at 152,000, so we're a good 52,000 over the 100,000 limit of being tier 4 in vanilla, which is unfortunate. Problem is when you're that far over the limit, it's going to be very inefficient, and it's not going to move very well. Especially, this is a combat steel hulled tank, and it'd be really cool if it could be updated, but I'm not sure you could pull off a size class 8 that this is in this material and have it maneuver well enough to be super useful in gameplay anymore. But man, this is just it's such a sweet tank. I would love it if someone like tried to, reinvent this a little bit to make it work, but keep how it looks. It'd be a really cool tank to use, especially if you're into a little bit of role playing as well, because this thing has a really nice interior with full functional everything, a couple of different rooms in it, constructors, places to hang out back over here. I mean, this is the kind of creations I love to see. They feel a lot more realistic and a lot more immersive than a lot of things, but I have a feeling that the CPU is going to kill it unless heavy modifications were made, and it might even have to transform into a different hull material in conjunction with evaluating all the thrusters and seeing if you can get some bigger ones on here in places to get it to move better. Taking a look at its regular specs right now, it can move with the modifications I made to it, but again, being that far over CPU, I think it would have a lot of problems as soon as you started going out and doing things with it in actual gameplay. And it doesn't turn very good right now because obviously I also removed 320 RCS trying to get it to function. I do wish that the CPU limitations were not so strict. Going up to tier 4 to me isn't all that big of a creation, where this would be, like, in my opinion, like a tier 5 creation. If there was a CPU limit of like 200,000, you could pull this kind of creation off, properly set it up with thrust and its parts needed to make it move and maneuver pretty good in the game. With that being said, let's go to the next one here, and this is the D.D CrossFire by spanj, and this is a valid tank currently. I took a look at the specs on this one. This one is for vanilla. I do believe, I'm not sure if it can do Reforged Eden or not. It might be able to. 100,000 CPU, it's sitting in at 98,000. It's running quite a barrage of weaponry on it. It's not stock weapon limits though, so it does exceed the number of rocket turrets and double Z artillery turrets that are allowed in standard weapon vanilla gameplay. But it looks like a good tank. I would use this one. It is it's set up. Many of these tanks are going to be set up where the pilot are going to sit way in the back. In this tank, it basically has two pilot seats. One is kind of your secure one that does not have first-person view, but right above that is a first-person view pilot seat. But it's done in a very safe position because when you're fighting a POI, typically the POI is going to be shooting at the front of your tank, at these turrets probably, and you're way back over here, so you shouldn't get killed even if you're in the first-person seat. But you have the third-person seat, which is a great backup, or even safer yet, and it's behind this big structure here with a bunch of pulse lasers inside of it. Very cool creation. Valid in vanilla gameplay for sure. Maybe Reforged Eden, but it is set up for vanilla. And awesome work on this one. Cool looking tank. I love the idea of this. Love the primary gun design. Looks slick. So the next one going on here is the POI Assault Tank MK2 And on the description I got from the website, it is by the Mauler. However, I've noticed that author name on this tank actually is listed as PW Watson 1. So probably the same person, just a different Steam name or whatnot. This looks like a very well set up tank too. Let's take a look at specs here first. I want to see if this is valid. Okay, so this looks like it's totally valid in vanilla as well, sitting within that 100,000 CPU limits, running quite a barrage of weapons on here. Again, it's not stock weapon limits. It's close, but I think it's exceeding rocket turrets by 2, plasma turrets by 1, and artillery turrets by 1 if you're using weapon limits. Now, I don't particularly like to use weapon limits myself, so I'd rather have a tank like this anyway. Very, very cool looking tank. Looks like it would be quite effective. The setup again on this one's probably where you sit back over here. You've got all this stuff out in front of you to keep the pilot safe, and even some lag shot blocks in the mix here. So it looks like it's a very well designed tank. It looks like it would be quite effective in game, and it's valid in game in vanilla playthrough at least. Again, a lot of these that you see work in vanilla could probably work in Reforged Eden if it had the core block set up. This one even has 20 RCS to play with that could be removed if you needed to free up CPU for other things. Again, very, very cool creation. So this would be valid today in vanilla gameplay. And part of the problem I had when I was looking for HV tanks, and I wanted to find, like, some end game ones, some big, tough, heavy tanks, is you can't sort for that specifically. So I had to look at just HVs in general, and then of course I was going by pictures on which ones look like they would be the tougher type. There's a lot of really nice creations out there, really pretty ones, but I was looking for ones that would actually probably work to take on tough POIs. The next one here is the Tiger 5, and that is by Iconic? No. Man, I'm having a hard time saying this. Ionic Vision. And this is it's a very cool looking tank. I don't believe it's running the same amount of firepower that the other ones have so far, but looks like it's set up pretty well. So you're just running, looks like 4 turrets on here, plus some miniguns and the big artillery turret on there. Now another turret down below here. Take a look at the CPU on this one. So this one isn't set up right now with the CPU core blocks in it, but I believe it would probably be an easy fix to get this one CPU compliant in vanilla. It does have 31 RCS on it again. Let me show you how you remove the RCS on a creation. This might be interesting if you haven't done this before. So here I'm going to turn that off for now. So the first thing that I would do is you got to identify what the name of the RCS is, and there's a couple console commands that you type in. So the first thing that you'd want to do is go to the console by hitting the tilde key and then typing in DI, which stands for debug information, and that puts up a little screen on the right side upper part of your window there. Now when you look at something like an RCS, let me see if I can find an RCS inside of here. Okay, here's RCS under the wall here. So I'll look at that, and it'll tell me the name of the RCS on the bottom row of that box, that debug info box on the screen. So from there, what I would want to do is find out the ID of this creation. So we know that this is 1153, and that would be on your statistics page when you hit the P or get to the P menu on a creation. So 1153. So then I hit the tilde key again. I want to type in the command replace blocks. Man, make sure I get that right. 1153. 1153, and the block I want to replace is the one that's going to be listed on the top of the screen over here, this RCS block GV. You have to type this in case sensitive, otherwise it won't recognize it. RCS block GV. Okay, so basically it's saying I want to replace all the blocks on this creation with the ID of 1153, and I want to replace RCS block GV, and the last thing you want to put in here is empty. So that will just simply remove it. So if I do this, bam, we got rid of 31 RCS on this creation, and now the ones I was just looking at are gone. So that's a really easy way to do it. CPU wise now, that lowered it down to 29,000. Be really easy to get this up. Actually, CPU tier 3 at this point in time. So even in default game, I could add in 2. I'll just throw them somewhere right now, but I could add in 2 CPU blocks, and this thing is probably ready to go. I'd have to see how it does with power and things like that. That could be one other thing is maybe you run out of power, but as in CPU, looks like it would be pretty valid now. And when you're looking at the workshop and say you wanted to find something of this role, say you wanted to find a heavy tank, you're going to probably run into the same things. You're going to see something that you really like. It's like, oh, that looks amazing, and then you'll bring it in the game. And you're like, oh, it doesn't work. It doesn't move. It doesn't do this. As soon as I turn it on, a generator blows up. It's unfortunate that happens, and I wish it was simpler and easier, and I wish you didn't have so much trouble with it. But I just kind of wanted to show you how to deal with that if you come across it. And not all creations can be salvaged. Like the first one by HP Strangelove, awesome tank. It would take extensive work to make it work right in game, unfortunately. The same thing I would have with a bunch of my older creations. Next one here is the CRX6, and this is by NMK111. Very pretty cool looking tank. It looks like it's quite functional too. So this one does have a tree cutter set up on it as well. It does have a front armored cockpit at least, but it's also covered by some extra glass over here. Give it a little bit more protection yet. Really cool design. Let's take a look at the specs, see where this one's playing. Okay, so this one was, again, probably predated before CPU was in the game, but it's under 100,000 CPU. So that's encouraging. That means you don't really have to delete anything. It would just need some tier 4 blocks, and it does have 88 RCS that could be removed if you needed to free up CPU on it. So on this one here, yeah, let's just dump in, let's go take, oh, we got plenty of room inside. So sorry about adding some random CPU blocks in your creation, but there we go. 4 of those. Should be happy with CPU now. And let's take a look at its loadout. So this one, I think this one is running the proper weapon limits. So 6 miniguns, 6 Gatling guns. Yep, that's valid. The harvesters are valid. 4 rocket turrets, 4 plasma turrets. So this one also meets stock weapon limits in vanilla gameplay. So pretty valid creation here. Let's take a look at its hull material. I would expect most of these to be made of combat steel, or at least hardened steel. And yeah, I'm just taking a look at the rest of these, and yeah, that's ringing true there. So another very, very cool creation. Looks like it would be valid in vanilla gameplay, probably Reforged Eden as well, but it's going to need CPU blocks added to it. And that's really probably about it. If you run into the situation, especially in Reforged Eden, where you add the CPU blocks and you take it out and then it's saying that your generators are getting damaged or something like that, then it needs more generators. That's another valid thing that you might have to do to make some of these older creations work again. So anyway, awesome work again on that one there. Next one here is the CATD10, and this is by Indigo Synn, or SYNN. This one looks like a big bulldozer, and I thought that aesthetically was very, very cool. I love how this was done up here. And it's actually harvesters, and looks like we've got some miners down over here. So really, really well done. How this whole setup was done, it looks very realistic to an actual bulldozer out there. Big one at that. This one's no slouch with weapons, though. See where this one's playing. So weapons limit, it does look like we just slightly exceed the stock weapons limits by having 6 rocket turrets on here. And I think that's it. I think everything else is to the proper limits there. CPU wise, okay, this one's over quite a bit. Let's see if we can do a quick restoration on that. So I'm going to do a standard thing, and again, I'm just randomly putting these on here so they're there. But let's add in 4 tier 4 CPU blocks. Get us up to 100,000. Let's take a look at how much RCS is in here. Got 144, so we got some wiggle room there. So creation name here is 1155. If you hit the up arrow, it'll repeat the last thing you typed in here. So I'm going to just change the ID to 1155 and leave everything else the same. And bam, we got rid of the 144 RCS on here. Which, what does that do for our CPU? It makes it valid. Gotta love that. So now this one is completely usable in game. So just keep in mind, if you want to use this creation in game, it's a really cool one again. You'd want to do those steps. You might not even have to get rid of all the RCS. Could probably leave some because there's some wiggle room here. But again, very, very cool creation. Let me see if it's got an interior or not. I didn't see an obvious way in. If there is interior, sometimes they're hidden. Oh yeah, we'll check this out. Oh yeah, we have an interior. How nice is that? So we got 3 seats. Looks like we've got well, a whole bunch of fuel in front, cargo extensions, and then with the front of it's all the armor. And I believe this is probably where a lot of the RCS were. That's why it's you see so many gaps in here right now. Now this does have a lot of buried thrusters. That works in game. I didn't realize it had so many buried thrusters before. I tried to not do that myself, but the game allows you to, so it's not really a thing. And let's see, hull material on this one, combat steel, okay, combat steel body. Obviously some interior and some other areas are probably done, and other materials, maybe just a little bit, like some carbon substrate, but that's kind of what you'd want to do with interior stuff. And it's, yeah, let's see. Weapons, harvesters. Yeah, we looked at this already. It was almost correct, except for the 6 rocket turrets. All right. Anyway, very cool creation. Definitely like this one too. Sorry, I'm trying to go through a little bit faster on these because I got so many of them in this video to look at. So the next one here is the Thor MK2 HV, and that is by. I don't have that listed. Let me. Man, how do I? Oh, this is by Solusticor. Solusticor builds a lot of really nice stuff. So I definitely feel that this one will probably be a very nice tank. So we've got harvesters up front. We've got, looks like vanilla stock weapon loadout on here. Check out the interior real quick. Nice interior. We got our pilot seat here. Again, that kind of tried and true setup of kind of keeping it back. In fact, it looks like we might even have some Xeno in here. Nope, that's just combat steel. Okay. That texture is also on Xeno, but very cool. Alright, so weapons on here. Looks very solid. Looks very solid. Nothing here exceeds stock weapon limits on the creation. It could actually have 2 more Gatling guns and 2 more minigun turrets, I do believe. Really cool creation. Let's see, CPU wise, no problem at all. It's a T4, only uses 58,000 CPU. It is using a few RCS, not a problem whatsoever on this creation. So I would say this one is definitely valid, and I would certainly say if it had the Reforged Eden blocks in it, it would also be valid probably for Reforged Eden without an issue. So again, very cool tank. Just all these I think would work. You know, all these would work at going after POIs. Basically, it's how much firepower can you get on a POI, how much maneuverability do you got, how much armor do you got, and you just got to figure out a balance on if you want a really fast tank that's light armor or a heavy tank that can take a beating and dish out a beating. It all depends on the style you want to go on. Next tank here is the Spectre ST56 HV, and this is by Bonedog. That's a very cool tank as well. It also does tree cutting. We've got quite a few harvesters on here. A nice set of weapons, good firing positions where everything's not blocked by something else in its way. So spotlights. We have a cockpit right up front here. We also have an interior in the back. A lot of thrust power back here. And looks like cargo, general utility stuff back here. You could easily pop in a pilot seat if you wanted to sit in this back room as well. Looks like the core is over there. Got a lot of stuff to shoot through on the front of the tank, which is a pretty typical setup. Let's take a look at its CPU. Okay, this one is over again. Again, it was made probably before CPU was entered into the game. Running 193 RCS. That's usually see those things go hand in hand. This is 1157, so let's do this for, 1157. Get rid of that on there, and then I'll add in some of these real quick. And now we're totally compliant here with CPU on this one. Usually wouldn't think it would be a thing for Reforged Eden either. Weapon count on this one. Okay, I'm not sure with the limit on harvest modules. I don't know if that's exceeding it or not. But I'm not seeing anything else that's wrong. So it looks like this would also work for standard weapon limits. Yeah, again, this looks like quite a pretty effective tank. Its biggest, I don't know if it would be an issue or not. The only stock cockpit is right up here. It's a bit vulnerable. depending on what the AI is shooting at, especially when you got a lot of these Gatling guns really close to that cockpit. I love having the first-person view, but it could result in this getting destroyed. So it might be wise to actually place a seat in the back and sit back over here somewhere, put you in a lot safer spot. But very, very cool tank, and that is yeah, very nice work. So the next one here, this one's a big one. This is the Minotaur, and this is by CheekyShenanigans. My bad. Talk so much I screw up words. All right. Wow. So this has a big harvester set up on the front here to get rid of any trees in your way, to destroying the POI. Looks like it also has a reverse cockpit. Let's see, are these multi-turrets, I assume? Yes. So it's also set up for salvaging. Very cool there. Looks like it would have stock weapon limits on it. Let's see, 4 rockets, yeah, I believe that's good. 6 Gatling guns, 4 plasma, 6 of those. Yeah, looks like it's stock weapon limits on this one. This is a big size class 9, biggest one yet. 1010 RCS. Wow. Okay, so this one is way exceeding CPU. Let's do the thing. It is 1150. Okay, we got rid of those. I'm going to add some CPU blocks for tier 4 somewhere. And what does that do for our CPU now? Okay, so this one would really struggle, because again, huge size class, probably just too many other parts. What is it running for, like, other things here? Generators are pretty important too, how many generators you have. This has a lot of fuel tanks and 18 generators in it, so that's probably sucking up a lot of CPU as well, on the tank. But it does look like it'd be quite effective. You again, you're sitting way far back over here, out of the range of where most things would be shooting at you, and should be fairly safe. I just fear that it's going to be so big that the CPU is going to crush it, and that's unfortunate for anything that's really big. Again, combat steel hull, pretty standard with heavy tanks. Really cool creation though. I was trying to figure out if there was any interior on this one, but I haven't seen a access door. Just your different cockpits here. Just fly inside here real quick, see what's going on. Okay, so we got all our combat steel up front. This is probably where a lot of the RCS were. So I had 1,000 of them, so that's 1,000 blocks that were removed from there. But I don't think it would be valid working in current gameplay. And again, it's probably just due to the size of it, unfortunately. Next one is the Ursa tank, and this is by CyberMech. This one looks pretty cool. It looks to the point. I like how it's set up here. Cool shaping. I like how it's kind of flared out along both sides over here. Kind of looks like a I don't know. It looks cool. It's a nice looking design. Let's take a look at the weapons on here. Let's see. Yeah, it looks like it is valid with stock weapon limits. Let's take a look at the CPU. Okay, not set up again for CPU. So you're going to run into this so often on the workshop that it's just knowing how to fix these things so you can use them in game is going to be a really cool thing to know. So on this one here, let's see what we got for RCS again. 270. So we're at 1158. And let's get rid of the RCS. And we'll add some core blocks. I wouldn't put the core box where I'm putting them, obviously, but... Oh, wrong type. Wrong type. Alright, so... A little over yet on this one. 27,000 over CPU. That's unfortunate. So at this point in time, a tank like this, you'd probably attack things like the thrusters, like the rear thrusters. It's got a lot of them. I'm not sure how much CPU each one of these are, but you'd probably have to remove maybe quite a few of these to try to get this compliant. I'm not sure how many you'd really have to remove, but what did that do for it? I got rid of 9 thrusters, brought it down by some. Well, you'd have to work at this one to get it to function properly in game currently, but it's a really cool tank. Looks like it'd be a nice setup to go in. It does have a oh, I love the interior here. Oh, this looks killer. I've tried to do like a nice looking display, like, well, I can't say I really tried. I did like the dotty thing, but I didn't do any of the other work. This is done really, really nice. Really nice. Yeah, 2 of these things. So yeah, you can free up a little CPU by some of the parts in here, but you'd have to work at it. You'd have to work at it to get it to CPU compliancy if you're playing with that turned on in the game. And that is one other thing. That's only if you're using CPU. Now, I'm not saying like you could be on a server or single player game and have that completely off so it doesn't care about CPU, and then you're not going to have a problem with any one of these tanks. It's one other thing that should be well known. All right, next one here is the IDI-Terseus MK2, and this is by Isaac Dark. And again, really cool looking tank. I like the weapon setup. Looks like most everything would work out pretty good. The only thing I see is this rocket launcher here might be hitting the back. Well, might not be able to fire because of the weapon in front of it. Other than that, everything looks pretty sound. 6 Gatling guns. Take a look at its loadout here. Okay, CPU wise, I can already say that this one would be valid. Easy to fix. Excuse me. Easy to fix the CPU on something like that. Let's see. Pretty quick build time, considering the class I'm looking at here. So CPU not a problem. Weapons, 5 minigun turrets. Yep, it would be stock weapon limits on here as well. So it's really pretty easy one. Wouldn't have to do anything more than really add your probably 4 tier 4 blocks and hit it. So yeah, that would easily bring that in. I didn't even check on the RCS. 45 RCS. You got a lot of wiggle room here too. You won't even have to remove the RCS on this tank. So another good valid entry here for current gameplay. Next one here is the Leviathan Seeds tank, and this is by Doom Noodle. So let's see what this one's all about. So this one's got a nice turret barrage setup. I'm not really seeing anything necessarily blocked, except if you're firing forward. This rear minigun here probably couldn't fire that direction. Got a lot of thrusters on it. I'm a little worried about CPU. Well, first, okay, stock vanilla weapon loadout on this one. CPU-wise, it's over by a little bit, not as much as I thought, and 155 RCS. So, what are we at? We're at 1160. And CPU blocks. Obviously, you could find much better places to put these CPU blocks. This is quick. Alright, and then we're totally compliant in here. You could have probably left a bunch of the RCS around too, or put some back. So another valid entry in today's vanilla gameplay. Probably Reforged Eden as well. Again, it's just a core thing. Reforged Eden things tend to be a little slower when they move. Tend to use a little bit more power when they move. And then they need the 2 improved and 1 basic core in addition to the and 1 more advanced core. So we need 5 of these, 2 improves and 1 basic to get it to the Reforged Eden stock limit without adding quantum cores to the creation. So another creation that looks like it would work out pretty well. Just see how the cockpit is set up. So it looks like our pilot seat is right up front. It is protected. It does have some glass plus these are actually pretty tough. These shuttered windows. It is possible if you got hit hard enough though that your interior does get breached. Like especially on the row right above here, it's only one block there, and then it's kind of like fire would get in. So it's a little unsafe if the pilot seat was moved. Oh, there's another pilot seat. Oh, holy crap! I didn't even see this when I came through. Never mind. There's a protected pilot seat back here too, so it has first and third person. So this one, it does look more protected. A little bit of glass up there, but I think I don't think shells will get through these half blocks. I think it'll look at these blocks as being like full blocks, and this is like a barrier wall here as well. Combat steel, okay, combat steel hull again. So pretty much every one of these, I believe, has been combat steel. All right, next creation here. This one's by CrazyZ, and he tends to do some pretty crazy things here. So this is a really off-the-wall thinking creation. This one is designed to spin and shoot its target. There's more turrets that obviously aren't popped out here right now. And then it's designed to kind of like rotate around and shoot the target. So when you're getting hit back, it's like at a different place every time, so you don't necessarily get any like deep damage on here. So we got combat steel hull again. Let's take a look at weapon loadout. It looks like we are stock vanilla weapon loadout on here. CPU wise, easily fixable to make it work in today's game. RCS, 36 RCS on there as well. So easily, we could put in the 4 CPU tier 4 blocks, bring it up to 100,000 CPU. Could even leave the RCS in place. Looks like it would be a valid option here. Now I know, being a CrazyZ tank, that's going to have an inside. So how do we get to it? Or does it not? Or is it tricky? Oh, well, yeah, there's an interior. Oh, it's over, oh, that's sneaky. So, yeah, there's this little cutout over in this area, and then it gets up into, this is really, really crazy. Oh, yeah, here we go. Standard CrazyZ decor. He tends to build luxury, so I expected this to be, you know, fancy carpet, nice woodworking, cool colors, everything just laid out really good. Looks like we got our driver's seat way back here, so it's kind of protected by a bunch of stuff out through the front on the tank, and it can do some tree harvesting as well. So everything should be compliant. I won't even bother throwing on these core blocks. We know it'll work, and I would suspect if you put on the right cores for Reforged Eden, you could also get this to work pretty quickly. So the next one here is the Kbar Heavy MK2 Re. Now this is built for Reforged Eden only. This by XCaliber. I think we've seen one of this version or another version in gameplay that we used before. Tough tank, designed to take out POIs and things like that. Now this is RE specs, so these numbers here are going to be pretty invalid within vanilla that I'm looking at it, but I do trust that it is valid with Reforged Eden. It was a newer release, and it basically said it was for Reforged Eden with the specific CPU. So let's go take a look at the inside here. This one's got a small, tight little cockpit here. Clone chamber. We've got our shield, all our other fun stuff. Pentaxid tank, display screen type of thing up front there. Decent amount of stuff before you and the bad guys. Take quite a bit of damage to penetrate that to get to you. It doesn't have as many weapons stock on it as I thought it did, but it's a Reforged Eden thing, so I have a feeling that these are all weapon mounts over here, and there's probably some more that you'd have to add some weapons in the game and justify the CPU of those. And also, since I brought it into vanilla, it's missing some Reforged Eden specific thrusters back here. That is something that you'd run into as well. I know there's a certain model that is only for Reforged Eden. I used them on the MCR and Scorpion myself, and that's why you see missing thrusters there. It looks like it also has a spot for a 5x5 artillery turret on here as well. So looks like, yeah, you could add quite a few turrets to it. It's just ready to be used right away, though. It's set at CPU tier 3. Well, I am in vanilla. So, yeah, the numbers are invalid. So, yeah, this would be a good solid tank to use in Reforged Eden currently. Maybe there is a vanilla version of this one. I have not looked. So the next one here is the Orestes, and this is by DarkestWarrior. And this looks like a pretty solid tank. Again, I believe this was a RE creation, or just for Reforged Eden. You got some more holes back here, which had those different size thrusters available only for Reforged Eden. Big turret setup on here. I do wonder if how these, side to side, obviously all these turrets could fire off like an angle like this just fine. If you're facing your target, I'm not sure if these work that close together or not. That's something I do not know. I typically usually try to keep the full space of the turret out. But if this works, it'll allow you to put more turrets in a tighter spot, which is a great idea. Let's see. Let's take a look at its loadout here. So this does exceed standard weapon limits. Again, not a problem. I prefer to if I'm going to build a new one, but does exceed it, so it'd probably need like one less minigun, 3 less rocket launchers, and other than that, I think it would be on 2 less plasma cannons. But it could also get an artillery cannon. It could get some minigun, Gatling guns, and things like that on there. So the setup looks pretty tried and true. I bet you sit back here somewhere. Yep. So there's the pilot seat, and then you've got this big barrage of stuff in front of you in the pilot seat. Looks like you could fill in more stuff or pop in other parts here. The only thing that scares me a little bit is the fuel tanks that I see up in the front, as well as the Pentaxid tank. Let's see, is combat steel? Yes, combat steel again. On the front of the tank, this will blow up and damage the blocks around it. But everything's it is sealed off, so these fuel tanks aren't going to chain react to other parts or shunt. It's just that they're in front of you in the likely direction that you would be shooting the POI at, which is straight on. Now, however, the tank looks like it would do quite well from one side to the other too, because you still got a lot of turrets that can hit to the sides. So that's probably be its only vulnerability, really, is that, and it's probably not that bad. Guess you'd have to see how it works in game. So again, Reforged Eden CPU, and this is for Reforged Eden. So I would say this is definitely valid, but it is for Reforged Eden gameplay, and it looks like it was very mindful of CPU. So again, very, very cool creation. Wait a minute. Isn't that this? That is this. Okay, so that was all of them. Somehow I double spawned one tank in here. Unless this is a different version. MK3? MK3. No, it's the same tank. So that is all the tanks on here. And yeah, I'm going to try to get a little bit better at looking at specific stuff, but it would take a lot of time and research to find things that are compliant and collect all that data out on the workshop of what is workable and useful. And so many of these are still useful. They just need like the quick modifications that I was doing, typically adding core blocks and or removing RCS. In some cases, you'd have to do more, especially large tanks like the Minotaur here and the Centurion are just so big that you're going to be really fighting. You're going to be really fighting to make those things move and be CPU compliant. That's unfortunate because I'd love to be able to build a larger class of HVs or SVs and have them work properly. So the last thing on the video here, I wanted to show you the updated version of the Skaar. Current name is Reaper. So you've seen the exterior on the last video. That didn't change too much. I did make a couple modifications to it and added in a bit of new functionality. First here, I'm going to do the lighty thing and show you what the inside looks like. The lights kick on. Oh man, it's dark. I'll put away the tool. So when you first walk in the tank, it's got two different ways in. It's got one feature that I added spontaneously from playing around. I'll show you that in a second here. The interior, it's weird. I had to play around a lot with this one because there's a lot of Xeno that is visible to the interior, and I had to find Xeno textures and try to mesh them into the Skaar texturing to make it all work out. So I used like textures I'd never really used before, like this particular floor tile. A lot of this is around and some other ones. But this is basically when you walk in, you've got your main core currently sitting here. Now you could put it to the other side as well. A couple bunk beds. You got a shower in here. You've got your all your CPU blocks are mounted in different places here. You got the two advanced ones. The basics actually right behind the little sign thing there. You got a room over here to add some quantum cores or auxiliary cores. Armor locker, O2, med, fridge. And then you have two 320k ammo bays and one advanced constructor inside. I wasn't even planning on putting in a constructor, but I had the room and I actually had the CPU for it, which was kind of amazing. And two passenger seats. So you got your full-size T2 shield in here. It does only have a standard 30 light year warp drive in it. And then you have an elevator here that goes up to the upper floor. It kind of walks along the side of the bridge here, and this is where the gravity generator is, some O2 tanks. The fuel tanks are buried in the hull in strategic locations that would not chain react. And then we have our advanced cores going down this hallway here, and it goes out to this area. So this area does some weird stuff. It actually has a bunch of these shuttered doors that extend out. And what this is all for is why I've got this Helios module sitting over here. Man, it's dark in the game now. So basically, you line up to the this little square checkbox right under the skull here. You just kind of bring it in forward, and it docks. And then when you get out, here I'll just walk on foot, maybe. No, I'm still at God mode. All right, out of God mode. Let me get down over here, and we'll walk out the front of this. Oh, it's doing that thing with the LCDs again. Lovely. And then you walk straight out and into this ship, and that's what this expandable area does, is it kind of seals the area. However, there's no O2 in here, so it's kind of pointless. but it allows you to just walk directly into the other ship and then hop right in. So I thought that was kind of a neat feature. This ship has tons of forward thrust power and would have no problem dragging along a module behind it. You can see in vanilla that it's quite agile. It's going to slow down in Reforged Eden, and this is but this is dragging around a Helios P module with it, unloaded of course. But so yeah. Anyway, I just wanted to show you that. That's where I'm at with it. I'm going to be bringing that into game fairly soon on the Anvil Season 3 server, and oh, come on, hit the right button. So many keys. And we'll see how this does in game. Just to take a look at its specs. Let me get the light back on here. Managed to get better turrets on it than I was originally expecting to. Now I'm in vanilla, and this is made for Reforged Eden. So keep in mind it is Reforged Eden Tier 4 compliant without quantum cores with this current loadout. But you're not seeing that here in vanilla. Weapons, it has stock 13 cannon turrets, 10 minigun turrets, 12 rocket turrets, 6 pulse laser launchers, 8 these are actually artillery launchers and Reforged Eden, and then the one detector. It does not have the long range radar. It does not have the super cool warp drive, but it is CPU compliant. Does use a fair amount of Xeno substrate material on this one, so it's not super cheap, but it is a small combat ship. It's armored pretty good. A lot of Xenoblock are in here. A lot of stuff between you and where you're sitting, even down below the floor, is beefed out to a couple layers thick here. Up along the top, certain areas are stronger, like where these arms are sticking out. It's stronger going back if you're taking front on fire from that than other places. And all the turrets should be able to fire forward. So see how it does. I'll have to take it out, but I thought adding in module support was kind of, I didn't think it would work, but it actually, I didn't do much. I built out a couple blocks here so I could put up the standard location for where these things dock at, and then just kind of made this section over here so you had a doorway that would line up to where the modules dock at, and there you go. Now you can go out into combat and you can drag a module around with you. So it could be a multifunction miner module or something like this one that's just about storage and production, or whatever you want to do, or even a farm. I don't care. This does not have any farm in it, or any kind of crew quarters or any of that kind of stuff. But final specs also, it is a size class 2, 194. So it's a really pretty small ship. It's quite fast, especially in vanilla. It doesn't have a lot of lift capability with only 2 large CV thrusters on the bottom, but it's enough for it to land on planets. Speaking of that, I'm going to land it with a module and see how that looks. Never thought about keeping a module on there when it was being done that way, but let's see. Yeah, I have a feeling this video is going to be really long. Sorry about that. Try to show so many things. It won't quite let me land, but kind of see how that works out. The landing gear should be down though. Now the only thing I did set the sensor to use landing gear to open up the back door ramp, the blast doors, and these doors over here. If you're in space, obviously the landing gear will not be down, and then you basically would go into the module door if it was available, or just manually open the stuff to get in. Well, all right, that's it for this week. Just curious on your thoughts on the tanks. I know it would be really neat if I could find like a big group of one type of creation that is all for vanilla or Reforged Eden that all work. But it's very difficult to find that on the workshop. You can't search for it, really. So you just got to manually check out each thing individually, and then, half the time bring them into game, because the posts, especially if it's an older creation back in 2018, 2019, the odds are, unless it was specifically updated and said on the post, that it's probably going to be built for a different, older version of the game that doesn't support CPU and definitely doesn't support Reforged Eden. But they can usually, well, a lot of times be fixed, unless they're too big. If they're too big, you're just kind of out of luck. Or you have to turn them into carbon substrate or something, but it doesn't work out so good for a tank. All right, well, anyway, y'all have yourself a good weekend. I will talk to you later.